Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the final edition in the month of October for Black Authors Matter TV.
Time flies.
It does. The year is almost over. Once Halloween gets here, that's all she wrote. But at any rate, I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And I also refer to her as my partner in crime. Because, you know, when we go on our trips, we get into all kinds of things. Anyway, we had a wonderful National Black Book Festival this year. It was an amazing event. We had new people, returning people. The energy was wonderful. Amazing information for authors. Experienced authors and new authors and aspiring authors. Just so much free information is really unbelievable that you can't get it anywhere else. You get to meet people who are actually doing it in the industry, and some just amazing seminars. And then this year we had a new seminar called the Six-Figure Author Formula, for those who want to really make money with your books. And her name is Melanie Bonita. She's the one who did the seminar. So we've already secured her for next year. So there's going to be one of the seminars that we do on Saturday that's added to.
I miss the seminars every time. I'm mad.
I miss the whole festival. So I never get to attend my event. But I get the gratification from all the people who come. We got accolades. Everybody who attended said it was amazing. Fallbrook Church said it was exceptional, and that's where we have the event. And
that's good.
It's just great. So the dates for next year are October 23rd through the 25th. The registration doesn't open until January 1st. I know some people are eager to sign up. One of these years, we might do a thing where we have people sign up at the event, where they can sign up for next year. We might do that this coming year. We'll see.
There are a lot of people who are doing that, and they sell out before they even start advertising.
Yeah, they do. So we might do that. I think we'll probably add that next year. And we're adding some other things. We've already had our debrief. We're adding some other things that'll benefit the attendees and the registrants. The participating authors. We're going to be doing some things. So anyway, we have a great lineup tonight, like we normally do. And our first guest is from Marion, Ohio. And those of you who watched the show may have seen a few authors recently that were from Marion, Ohio, and part of the Peace and Freedom Committee that they formed that allows authors to create their work. And also it's children's books they're focusing on initially. I don't know if that will be their purpose or their charge going forward, their focus. But Lora Troutman, who we have with us tonight, is the brainchild, so to speak, behind the whole effort. And so, Lora Troutman, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, and did I describe you correctly? You are it's your brainchild. That's what I meant.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Me and God.
Yeah, and that's where these big ideas come from. The book festival and this show.
Yes.
Both were a God-inspired idea. They were both God-inspired ideas. So, Lora, tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to the point of forming the Peace and Freedom Committee.
Well, I worked at Whirlpool for 39 years, and the last several years that I worked there, I would wake up. Columbus is the largest or one of the largest celebration of the Martin Luther King breakfast. And I would watch that in the mornings. I'd be like, we're 45 minutes north of Columbus, Ohio. So I'm like, why are we not celebrating the national holiday, Martin Luther King? So that really pondered with me, and just God just put it in my spirit to write a letter. So I wrote a letter to 5 women, and we met downtown at Charleston's place, and that's how it all started. It first was the Martin Luther King breakfast celebration, but then we decided that kept us in a box. So then it changed to a Peace and Freedom Committee, nonprofit organization, probably 5 years later.
Okay, letter writing is a lost art.
It is.
But I've accomplished so many things by writing letters.
Well, I think there's
Including-
something special about a handwritten letter. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
it
Or
doesn't feel
typed.
generated. It doesn't feel like AI. It doesn't feel
Right.
scary.
Right.
Somebody actually took the time and thought to write you. So it does. It's just a whole
And
different.
I still have that original letter.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah,
wrote
and-
that in
and
2007.
People don't get letters anymore. They get emails.
No,
Have you framed
right.
the letter? Have
Mhm.
you framed the letter since this is what started everything?
I have not, but I still have it. Yes, I should.
Yeah, the letters can, for those who don't write them or don't think that they're impactful, in this environment, because they're rare, they make
Yeah.
an impact.
Mhm.
Yes,
They
they
get
are.
people's attention. People read them. And if you send it to like a large organization, normally if you send it to the person at the top or decision maker, their assistant is reading their letters and presenting them with things that are important or things that they should be aware of. And so you would be surprised what people get. My daughter got out of school debt free because I wrote letters. I wrote
Okay.
letters asking for money. I didn't just take no or the little amount. I wrote a letter and made my case that we needed more. And this is how great she is. And please reconsider.
Right.
But you have to make your case, and you have to, it needs to be grammatically correct and all of that. And it's helpful if you are a writer, just, a person who writes regularly, because then the words come to you. But letters, writing, and you can always like dictate it and then type it later. Like some people,
Yes.
would rather do audio and then take that and then type it on the computer and print it out. It's a lost art. Try it. I have gotten so many things done because I wrote letters. So anyway,
Well, you writing a letter really it really started a whole movement for you.
right.
Yes. Yes, it did.
Now, how did you
17
decide
years in.
the 5
Wow.
people that you contacted? Were they already friends of yours, or were they people you knew already, or were
People I knew, but you have to know people, their hearts, and someone that's going to capture that vision. And the ladies I contacted, they did.
Right.
Okay, now are they the people that are part of the writers group, or this is a whole different group?
This is a whole different group. Now, the ladies with the books, Rhea Edmonds and myself were co-founders of Peace and Freedom Publications. And then again, we wrote letters and contacted these ladies. It might have been through emails. I can't remember about that, but they were so excited, to be a part of this. And 2 of the ladies are not even members of the Peace and Freedom Committee. So they started out with 3 books, 3 groups, and they were Phyllis Wheatley, I can't remember, Zora Houston, and Octavia Butler. That's how the group started. But then as the ladies faded away, we ended up with 6 authors and 6 books, and all proceeds go back to support the nonprofit organization. So this is amazing that these ladies believe in the Peace and Freedom Committee to dedicate their time, write these books, and all proceeds to go back to support, the nonprofit organization.
This is the importance of having like-minded friends. You don't have to have
Yes,
something in common with everybody, but when you have people who believe in the same thing you do, it makes it so much easier when you start something like this.
absolutely.
Were you kind of surprised when you got so many positive responses?
Yes. I'm still at awe. People even ask me about the Peace and Freedom Committee, the nonprofit organization. How do you feel? But I'm just so busy constantly thinking about the next event, what we can do, that I just really haven't settled in me. 17 years we've been in existence in Marion, Ohio. That's just amazing.
Yeah, that's
There's a lot of great
number
things
17.
happening in Ohio.
Yes.
Yeah, that number 17 is personal for me because we celebrated the 17th anniversary of the National Black Book Festival this year.
Yes, you did. Yes.
So, 17 years, it goes by really fast.
Yeah, especially when you're constantly working, trying to find out what to do
Mhm.
next, who do you contact, letters and getting funding. Yes.
Yeah, and then you have to maintain your creativity because you don't want whatever you're doing to, get stale. You want to stay
Right.
on, with the trends,
Yes.
stay on top of where things are going so you can be relevant all the time.
So tell us about the books that are part of this movement.
Okay, so my book here is called Color Me Friend, and it's in English and Spanish.
I noticed that.
Yes. So I just wanted kids in Marion. Well, the title of our book thing is Marion Looks Like Me, because there's a population of over maybe 35,000 in Marion, and the population of Blacks is like 1.58%. So we just wanted to write books that some of the stories about life stories that have happened in Marion, Ohio, and just want the kids of Marion to know that, you can write a book. You're never too young, you're never too old. So one of the pages says, if my eyes could talk, they would say, be my friend. So we had two young men looking at each other. And then on the opposite page, you color your friend as you see your friend.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and yes, another one is, if my ears could talk, they would say, I hear the kind words you say. So again, here's the picture, and then they color. And the crayons also have like face colored crayons.
Yeah,
So that
that
the
are
kids
like
can color their faces. Yes, that's
Yeah,
a
face
pigment.
painting, like.
Yes. So that was my book. And I was inspired because after I retired from Whirlpool, I was a school bus aide. And I would see how the kids were so separated, like because you're Black, the white kids might not want to sit with them, or, vice versa. So it just kind of pricked my spirit. Again, everything that I do is always God given to me. So we just put that in my spirit, color me friend. I'm like, okay, color me friend, what am I gonna do with that? So he just guided me through that.
And where did you get the pictures that you included in your book?
Well, the ones on the front cover, I contacted some parents and they all signed contracts for their kids to participate again and take pictures and not get compensated. And then the kids in the inside, most of them go to my church, Logos Christian Ministries here in Marion, Ohio. So we hired a photographer out of Columbus, Ohio, and she came to Marion, and we went down to different areas, to the parks, to the schools, downtown at the courthouse, and we took pictures. Took a whole day, but it was fun.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Okay. So I was wondering about the same thing. How did you pick the kids, or how did you decide which scenes and that kind of thing to go along with it? Had you already written the book when you took the photos, or did
Yes, I had written the book, and then I contacted the photographer, and then she's familiar with Marion. She used to live here, but she moved to Columbus as she graduated from high school. So she came back here and she picked out the different locations that we went to.
Okay, now you have, I think, five, is it five? Is it you and five authors, I think,
Yes, ma'am.
that have written the children's book? So what do you all have planned for what you do now? Are you going to do another set of children's books, or how, what have you thought down the road in terms of what to do next?
A couple of them. Now I know Kemba, which is who's coming on next. I'll let her tell her story, but she had started a second book. And when she approached me, I was like, Kemba, because we told the ladies, okay, this is an opportunity for you to, help the Peace and Freedom Committee, but this opens a road for you to, write a book for yourself. So I asked Kemba, I said, so is this book for Peace and Freedom Committee? Or are you writing this book for yourself? She goes, no, I'm writing the second book for Peace and Freedom Committee. So, and then Kathleen Clements, you have already interviewed her. So she's starting a second book also. So we have some more books that's going to be coming forward, in the future. So I haven't decided what I want to do next. I'm just praying and just waiting.
So you haven't even decided whether it's going to be another coloring book, or do you want to?
I don't think it's going to be I don't know. I really don't know. I thought about it, but I really don't know. Just have to have that ear to hear from God, see what he gives me. So yes.
So how do you all promote the books? I know some of the authors have been on the show, but locally, are you doing things locally to promote the books?
We are local. We started in Columbus because Stephanie Bridges, she's our publisher out of Columbus, and that's who we connected with to publish all of our books. So she had 2 events in Columbus that we attended. And then Valerie Coleman invited us to an event in Dayton, Ohio. And Kemba's been back to Dayton several times. I've been in George Washington School twice. And Kathleen Clemens, she invited me out to Tribe Rivers Career Center. I did books out there. So we are doing a book signing at our building, November the 23rd. We have a building that was gifted to us by Pillar Credit Union here in Marion. So we will be doing our open house book signing there. And then I got a phone call yesterday from my husband's friend, Mike Zucker, and he supports Marion community, especially people of color. And he wants me to do a book signing there, I think November the 16th. So we're getting out here in Marion, the wonderful. Churches, we're getting flyers out. So we got some events planned for next year.
So Kemba, I'm going to say your name wrong, and I hope I don't. Kemba Mohub said that it's so cool. Yeah, said it's so cool for children to see themselves in this book. Is that kind of no matter what type of book is going to be created after this down the line, should they always be books where kids can see themselves? Yes, and that's very important for Marion because our kids in Marion, they don't see people of color like in businesses or, school teachers, it's very few. So when they are taken outside of Marion, we have freedom writers at our church, Logos Christian Ministries, and they take the kids to see this at the HBCU colleges, and they just came back from Memphis. So even when they go to Cleveland or Cincinnati and see people of colors in position, they are like amazed because we don't see that in Marion. So that's why we want to publish these books, with people of color, so that our kids in Marion can see themselves and reflect, that I can do that too, even at our age, who would have thought I would be writing a book, at my age, but, with God, all things are possible. But we want the kids in Marion to see themselves in this book and encourage them to be a part of the Peace and Freedom publication book writing also.
Okay. And you have the 5 authors, which is good because you all can help each other with the marketing.
Yes.
And, you're not by yourselves trying to promote books, because being an author, it can be very isolating. It is it's a personal exercise in terms of it's solitary. When you write, generally you're doing it by yourself when you write your own book. And a lot of times you don't want distractions. So you have to go to a place where a quiet place. It could be in your home. Some people go to other places. Some people go to not so quiet places. I know people go to Starbucks and write. I hear that from others. I can't go to
Starbucks and write. I think it really depends on it really depends on your concentration level sometimes. And sometimes people like going to a place like a Starbucks or any type of coffee house because there's so many other people there working too. It almost
Right.
feels like a co-working space. And sometimes you
Mhm.
can draw that inspiration because so
Right.
many people are doing something, whether it's homework, whether it's writing,
They're
whether
doing
they're
something.
teleworking, they're doing something. So you feel like you're a part of that community. It makes you want to work a little bit more.
Yeah. We started writing back in, well, meeting back in 2020, right before COVID. Then when
Mm.
COVID came in, we were having Zoom meetings like back to back, like every 2 weeks and then once a month. So
Yeah, we're probably
we
tired
did
of that
that all
completely.
through the COVID. Yes, we were, writing,
Yeah. A lot of books came out of COVID. And a lot of
Yes.
people that come on the show said they started writing during COVID for all kinds of reasons. Either, they were just motivated or they didn't have anything, they were just
Nothing
sitting
to do. You
around
couldn't go
and
nowhere.
anything to do, they
Right.
couldn't go anywhere. So,
Might as well,
so,
right?
yeah. So I was gonna ask a question about Marion because the Black population is so small.
Very small.
How did the Black people who are there get there? If that makes sense. Does that
A
make
lot, a lot, a lot of them came in from the South because there were a lot of factories in Marion. Back in the day, there was lots of work, and you can leave one factory and go to another one. But that's how a lot of Blacks came to Marion for work.
Okay, so it's kind
Down
of like
south.
that whole migration during that
Mhm.
period that's described in Isabel Wilkerson's book, um, The Warmth of Other Suns, where she describes that whole period, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, in there, where a
Mhm.
lot of Black people
Well, there
migrate.
may be a migration now, but it seems like there's a boom right now because there's so many great things. You mentioned Valerie Coleman earlier, the Pen of the Writer conference, which
Yes,
I was so happy to see that she was still doing. I'm not sure if she's still doing it now, is she?
yes, she
Yeah.
is
So
doing
But
a
she
great
changed the
there,
job. Yes.
name to it's a children, it's BIPOC, I think.
yeah. Well, the
BIPOC.
just the fact that she's continuing to do that because that was like one of the first festivals I went to when I first became an author
Yes.
20 years ago. So she's doing a lot of great things in Ohio. There I've met a number of authors and entrepreneurs coming out of Ohio. So it's like there's a boom, like a cultural
There
boom
is a
going
boom.
on.
Yes, there is, especially for, Black books,
Yes.
Black authors writing Black books for our children. Because I go in Target now and Walmart, and you see so many books by, authors of color, and I was shocked myself. So yes.
Oh,
You
your
know,
your granddaughter wants to know why you can't hear her.
I know all my kids, grandkids, great grandkids, they listening in, right?
But she says she loves you.
That probably Destiny or Deja, probably Deja.
your granddaughter Izzy said.
Yes.
Izzy, that's Izzy
Hmm.
from Las Vegas. Yeah, she's here visiting right now.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh. So what are some of the challenges that you have with your Peace and Freedom Committee?
Challenges is reaching our people of color. We get grants through Marion Community Foundation, United Way, Rotary Club. I mean, they support us, but when we have our events, it's just reaching that audience of people of color. Back in the day, Marion used to have Black neighborhoods. We had the West Side, we had the North Side, we had the Northeast, and now everybody, everybody like the Jeffersons moving on up.
Yes.
Everybody wants to move to a different neighborhood. So we no longer have Black neighborhoods. We don't have bars, nightclubs. We don't have any of that anymore. So if you have a church, we have Black churches. So if you don't work with someone, if you don't go to church with them, you don't see them because we have nothing else here. So it's hard reaching our people of color to support us.
So what do you do for fun? Or what do you do for community?
Uh, there's nothing here. We go to church. We go to church and home. We go to Columbus a lot. Unless the church is having an anniversary, church anniversary, a pastor's anniversary, but we just don't have anything here anymore.
Wow.
That's one of the unfortunate outcomes of dispersal when our communities were no longer cohesive altogether.
Right, right.
Yes, that happened all over the country. And probably more impactful in the small city like yours, where the population was already very small.
Right.
And it was at least together before, but now
Right.
it's
It was.
because
We were
people,
so separated.
yeah, people have options, and then with the options, you really become separate. That's
Yes.
kind of the way that is. I don't know. You have to find a way back to each other in other forms. A lot of times, one thing that did survive that era there are three institutions, and I did some research on this for my first book. The three institutions that survived integration were the church, the Black church, the funeral business, and the beauty shop and barbershop. Because
Yes.
you still want somebody Black to do your hair. I mean, these are,
Right.
it's different. The church experience is different,
Right.
And funerals, that's the church experience too. That's with death. So,
Yeah.
and it's just a difference in culture that we were able to retain. But a lot of the other things, most everything else, we lost. But there are some things springing up. There's people doing all kinds of innovative things. There seems to be a renaissance in entrepreneurship among some of the younger, like the millennials, and they seem to really have a heart for entrepreneurship, which is
Yeah,
good.
this is true.
Yes.
Yeah,
And this is what we're trying to do, is bring the young people, because all of us Peace and Freedom Committee members, we're up in age. We want to bring the younger people in, because they're going to draw that generation in that we can't.
That's true. Young people like to be with young people. It's kind of like when Facebook first started, everybody was on it. But then Facebook became this place where old people are, according to my daughter.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what they say.
Most people say. I say it's the mature people who have, they're settled, they have income, and they're literate. So it's a different audience than Instagram or TikTok.
Right.
So
Yes.
but it's all good. So are you all accepting any new authors, or outside of Marion, are you accepting any books or book proposals from people outside of Marion?
Not right now. We're basically trying to focus on sustaining. Like I said, we a lot of grant money from American Community Foundation, United Way, Rotary Club. So one of the questions on the applications, what are you doing to financially sustain yourself? So this is where the book publication comes in. This is money that's going to help sustain us. So we're still looking for that signature event, because we have the speech contest, we have the Martin Luther King breakfast, the Hats Off to You ladies luncheon. We do the Chucks and Pros fundraiser. So we have a lot of events, but we need that signature event where we can make maybe $20,000, $30,000. So we're still trying to figure that piece out.
Okay. Well,
when you find out, let me know so I can adopt the idea too. I want to make $10,000.
Yeah, right. Maybe we can do an add-on for the festival.
Yes.
If you bring in that kind of money, that would be great.
Yeah. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out.
Well, we wish you the best, and we know you're going to do it, because you put your mind to this and you created something huge. I'm looking at the comments right now. You have a lot of support, a lot of love. And so with that type of support, I don't see anything but you continuing to grow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and continued success for the Peace and Freedom Committee and all the authors that you have under your umbrella.
And I will continue to watch your show. I love it. Learn so much, and I just appreciate you guys.
Thank you. And by the way, we did put your links in the chat. There's a link to the Peace and Freedom organization, and then there's also a link to your book. So if
Okay,
you would
yes.
like to support the book, which in turn supports the organization, just click
Yes.
the link. I posted it under my name, Rhonda Lawson.
Thank
Just
you.
click the link and you can purchase the book.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you, you too.
Okay,
Good night.
good night. So we have one of the authors from the Peace and Freedom Committee in Marion on next, and we've had a couple of other ones on previous evenings. So we're going to bring on Kemba Hubbard, and she has a book called Missing Daddy. I believe it's Missing Daddy, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her book and how she became part of the Peace and Freedom Committee. So we want to unmute so we can hear you.
I think she noticed it as soon as she said hi.
Like, they can't hear me. I'm so excited.
Excited to
So-
have you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Kimba, for being part of the show. Before we get started, our final guest, so her last name is Hubbard.
Yes, I noticed
You
that.
notice that?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I don't know, you all might be kin, as they say.
It's possible. It's possible.
So anyway, you all, maybe you can look each other up or communicate afterwards and find out. Because that was just coincidental.
I told my mom that was something that we both had the last name Hubbard out of all the authors that you all interview.
Right.
So,
Right. So how did you become part of the Peace and Freedom Committee? What motivated you to, when Lora reached out, to say yes?
well, I was not born and raised in Marion, Ohio. My mother was. So we moved to Marion in 2016. And I quickly became aware that Miss Laura was one of the pillars in the community. And she is a fantastic lady, as you can see, a woman of vision. And so I don't say no to her hardly at all. So when she asked her, Miss Rita asked me to join, I didn't think I was going to be in the role that I was in. I was just saying yes because it was Miss Laura. So, I said, well, I'll do this supportive role or this supportive role. And Miss Laura said, no, I was thinking more that you would be an author. So I did, the good Christian thing. And I said, well, I'll pray about it. And so when I prayed about it, I did actually get the outline for the book. So then I was like, well, we'll just see how they respond. There were two authors in our group. I was in the Phyllis Wheatley group, which is pretty awesome because we know Phyllis Wheatley wrote poems while she was still enslaved. So the fact that I was in her group, I was pretty excited. So I shared, kind of this vision and kind of, that it was going to be a children's book. And the other author in the book said, that's interesting. When I was praying about it, I decided I want to write a book about a little boy whose mom was in rehab. So Miss Laura and Miss Rhea just took off with that, honey. So then I was hooked from then on. I couldn't get off the hook.
Oh boy. So your book is called Missing Daddy, Living Life While Daddy's Away.
Yes.
And so was this inspired by personal experience?
No. Although I know a lot of people, as you see, I have my little vinyl sticker.
Yeah, you were a finalist.
So I've been an educator for over 25-ish years. And so this is built upon my experience as an educator. I have 7 godsons. 3 of them have been in the juvenile justice system. I had children live with me and their father also, they kind of lived this through with their dad. So it was kind of on that experience. And then the reason why it ties to Marion, ladies, because we have a huge jail right here in Marion, Ohio. So it just kind of all fit together. This is one of those populations that doesn't get attention, doesn't have services sometimes. So I think that's why God had me write the book to bless this population and have a tool for their parents. So, my goal and vision is to have this in every prison in Ohio and throughout the United States. So that's how I think I would like to use it.
That fits so perfectly with what we were talking about earlier about children being able to see themselves. Because growing up, when we read children's books, it was always the perfect family, mom and dad, white picket fence. We didn't, I think sometimes, well, in fact, I know that they weren't thinking about the child who didn't have a parent in the house, or the child whose father is incarcerated. And so now that we're writing more inclusive children's stories, I think more children are starting to see themselves. So, and the fact that this wasn't your experience, but you knew it was the experience of many of the children around you, says a lot about yourself as well. It was very perceptive.
Well, as an elementary school teacher, I use books a lot in my classroom. And then with the children that live with me, I use books. So I just feel like books is a really good way to invite children into that conversation. I
Yes.
mean, I have one of the pages, one of the things that this young lady talks about, Lakeisha, is this icky feeling that she has and how she navigates this icky feeling. And so it's a tool that parents can use. And I want to say this too. Uh, the the young lady is named after one of my best friends, who has been in the juvenile justice system for over 20 years. She was a youth leader, and I keep telling her she needs to write her curriculum down and actually sell it, because the way
Yes.
that she invested her lives in those young people. She still works there, not as a capacity as a youth leader, but the way that she did it was amazing. So that's part of the reason why I named the character was after one of my best friends. So yeah, it's just drawing upon all those experiences for this audience that we have.
Okay. So this in the book, is daddy incarcerated, or because missing daddy could be deployed, or
Yes.
he could be a person who travels for business
Well,
where
it's
he's away a lot. So
Well, Miss Gwen, it's interesting that you said that, because when people see the title, because I lost my father, they think it's my story. But no, Daddy actually, here you can see the police taking Daddy away. So he is actually incarcerated, and that is within the first couple of pages that you get the message that Daddy is away in prison.
I could
okay.
see this doing really well. You said there's a very large jail in your city.
Yes. So Marion Correctional Facility is very large, a jail. I wish Miss Vicki was here to give me all the facts about it, but it's been here for a long time. I don't know the level of security or anything like that, but I really wanted the illustrator to be from the prison. I thought that's what God wanted as well. We couldn't do that because of the red tape that we just encountered some things, but my illustrator is awesome. I love her. I found her through Miss Stephanie Bridges, who Miss Laura was talking about. But yes, we have a large facility. In fact, when I describe Marion to people, I'll often wait to the last descriptive. Then I say, where the men's prison is, and then they usually shake their head.
So it's like a
Yeah.
landmark.
Yeah, basically go to the men's prison and turn right or something like that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
Dr.
I'm from New Orleans, and there's a pretty sizable jail in the middle of our city as well. And it used to be that the people who were incarcerated there could just look right out the window and just talk to you right on the street, because that's how much in the city it is. And so it was kind of a way of, I wouldn't say a way of life to go to jail, but it was, everybody knew about the prison. So I can imagine exactly what you're saying about Marion, about it being kind of that landmark.
Yes, ma'am. Very much so. And when you drive past it, it just seems like it goes on for miles and miles and miles
Mm.
and miles. So yeah, it's pretty large. And then unfortunately, about 40 minutes down the road is Marysville, Ohio, and there is a women's prison there. So in this area, it's just, and then we have a couple youth facilities as well in this area. So yeah.
So in the book, does he come home?
Oh, we're gonna do a
That'd be
spoiler,
a
Miss
spoiler.
Gwen?
Okay, well, no. All right. No, don't do a spoiler. I was
You're
saying,
asking for the end of the story.
well, if we could do it without being a spoiler, then she would let me know that. So we can't. So
Mhm.
that's fine. I just didn't know if the whole if she was missing daddy to the end of the book and then it ended or not. But you have to read the book to find out what happens.
So one of the things about the book, I get a lot of questions about the book because Mama just makes these guest appearances. because they all lived together, and then they went to live with grandma. Grandma's a woman of great wisdom, kind of like my mom and my grandmas and my aunties, just full of wisdom. And the Miss Loras that God have put in my life. So that's what grandma represents. So you just kind of see mom and in and out, and then there's this whole father-daughter dance and getting introduced to Uncle Mike. So people are always asking me questions about mama and Uncle Mike, and I say to them, I believe what God wanted me to do to be able to put your story in the story. Right? How does it hit you? How, again, because these are talking points that I want people to have with family members, with their stepchildren and children and grandchildren. So there are some details out there that you need to plug in yourself about what happens. But I will tell you this: I had a dear friend of mine who is a prolific English teacher in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and he said he was very proud that I didn't make this live happily ever after book. So I will throw that
not
out.
Everybody has the chance to live happily ever after, or happily ever after can look different for a lot of different people.
Well, I think I feel like we're just kind of in this age where we are reevaluating what this American dream maybe is, especially when we look at it from a perspective of purpose. Some of the most prolific Bible characters had a whole lot of stony roads and a whole lot of barriers and a whole lot of things maybe
the Bible is full of imperfect people
in the closet maybe they didn't want to talk about. And so I think that's important to talk about how even the way Mama described it, that Daddy made some bad decisions. And so how do we recoup from failure? How do we recoup from bad decisions? What does that look like? How do we live in the middle of messiness?
Yes.
And so that's kind of what was in my head as well as I was writing the book.
So as you write more books, are you going to stick with this theme? Because you said there's also a women's prison not far away. So have you thought of doing a missing mommy type version?
Well, Dr. Rhonda, I really wasn't, this was like a one and done, but like Miss Lora said, I was after I finished writing this book, I got an outline for another book. It's not a continuation, but the next book is called it doesn't really have a title yet, but basically the theme is Don't Gaze at What I Am, but Who I Am. So it's about a little girl named Kiana and about different individuals Kiana met every year in school who had different cultures, looked like different than her, talked different than her, ate things different than her, and how she reflected upon that and learned that, as Dr. Martin Luther King has shared with us, we don't judge people by their cover, right? By their characters is how we get to know people. And this really reflects my story as well, growing up biracial in America, not being often Black enough, definitely not part of a white society. Like, my elementary years, my middle school years, we're always trying to find that identity and where I fit and what that meant and what I was supposed to act like. And, when people roll their eyes at me because I had curly hair, and then other people wouldn't look at me because I had curly, like, what do you do with all of that? And so Kiana's story is about how she meets different people from different cultures. And again, it reflects Marion as well. She meets a little boy who is Hispanic. We have a Latino Hispanic population in Marion. She meets a young lady from Vietnam. We have a Vietnamese population. She meets a young boy named Levi, who is he is part of the Jewish community. We have a Temple Israel here in Marion. So it also reflects this community, but community at large, right? We all have those stories. And so that's what I feel like God told me my next book is going to be. So that is what I'm working on.
Sounds like your stories reflect America.
That's kind of how I feel, but that is my own personal journey. I don't want to put that on anyone else, but yeah.
I'm wondering, is there a way, and I have no idea about this, but since your book discusses people whose fathers went to prison, is there a way to gift the books to the children of the people that are in the prison?
I've been thinking about that too, Miss Gwen, because the Angel Tree Project
Yes,
is
we have
geared
that at our
toward,
church.
right, they're geared toward, that's their whole goal. And also at one of the events Miss Laura was talking about, I met a lady who had me connect. I've been trying to connect with a young lady in Columbus, and that's what she does every Christmas is because she was incarcerated. So she does the same type of thing, but does it locally. So I'm trying to connect with her because yes, I think that would be ideal to get it in the book, get it into the hands of children.
Yeah, that angel tree, hooking up with the angel tree project. If there's any way you can get to, letter writing is a lost art. We were talking about that earlier. If there's any way that you can find out who the decision maker is. Normally, the decision maker's at the top, and even if they're not at the top, whoever it is will take the directive from the person at the top. So it's better to start at the top because that way you eliminate the middleman. And if they say it's a go, then it's a go. It goes all the way down to all the different
Or
levels.
get the person who thinks they're important because they like to pretend they're the decision maker.
Yeah, I've never tried that route, but I'm sure that could be a strategy.
Well, I always tell individuals, when you go into schools, make sure you're friends with the secretary because usually they're the
Exactly.
ones of the most influence.
They know,
So
yeah,
then,
they know everybody.
Yeah, they know everybody, and they can control how communication is passed and who sees what, and they can direct you to whomever. That is so true. So, for Missing Daddy, do the children in your book, are they discussing it with their friends? Like what, do you broach that subject?
well, she does meet a young lady named Hannah when she first gets to school. So here's a picture of Miss Hannah.
I saw that picture.
Yeah, so here Hannah's asking her if she's going to come to open house, and she says, "No, I don't know," because she doesn't know how she's going to get there. And so her and Hannah end up becoming friends, and it's not really in the book does she talk about it, but her and Hannah do share a lot of things together. So with the dance with Uncle Mike, we found out that Hannah's father can't come as well because he has to work. So Hannah has to come with her grandfather, and Lakeisha has to come with her uncle.
Okay.
And so they bond over these issues that aren't quite the same, but they can carry with them the same feelings, even though they're different experiences.
There's a parallel there.
So your characters are so cute. I'm loving the little Afro puff
Oh my
with the
goodness.
braids coming down.
I
Yes.
just have to give a shout out to Miss Aaliyah. And again, when we connected with Miss Stephanie has written a couple of books. Her books are so unique because they are around her children's. She's written several books, but a couple of her books are around her children. She writes them kind of based on their personalities. It's so intriguing. But she worked with illustrators who graduated from our Columbus School of Design. So she really started, like Miss Rhea and Miss Laura were like the brainchild, and then we got these feet. We got connected with Miss Stephanie, and that's how I got Miss Aaliyah. And she was a graduate. She wasn't working as an illustrator at the time, but Miss Stephanie invited her into the project. So remember, I'm still kind of like pouting with God because I don't have this prisoner illustrating. And I remember the first time I saw her illustration. Funny you said that. She had a couple of hairstyles, and I literally got chills because the illustrations were beyond what I could imagine. Like Aaliyah, she's had some kind of gifting and anointing because she knocked it out of the box for sure.
Another important reason for a community. I mean, it seemed like everything you all need is right there. So even though we were joking about there being nothing to do with Marion, and the fact that you have such a community where everything you need is right there, a lot of people in bigger cities don't have that. They have to reach a little further for that. So
well, and
that's great.
Dr. Rhonda, it's interesting that you said that because my experience is a little bit different. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. It's a little bit smaller than Columbus or Cincinnati or Cleveland, but it's in the top 10 when it comes to cities in Ohio. And I would come to Marion every Thanksgiving because again, my mom is from Marion. And my story is, so my mom and aunt went to the Catholic school here, graduated with, I don't know, my mama put in the chat 40 people or whatever. So when my mom went off to college, my aunt went off to the University of Dayton, my godmom, she's African American. So my mom went to visit her one day. My dad was a student at the University of Dayton, and here I am. So I grew up in Dayton until we moved back in 2016. And if you would have told me when I was in my 20s that I would move to Marion, I would say, honey, the devil is a lie. But when I moved back, because we had to move back because of life circumstances, what I found was a lot of community. So yeah, I had community. I mean, my god kids are there, some of my friends are there, a lot of coworkers. But since I've been here, I have a really tight-knit workout community. I have the real tight-knit Miss Lora, Miss Kathleen's community. I have a real tight-knit church community. And so it's really interesting in this small town, how connected I am with different communities and how nice that is, especially for what I was going through at the time when we first moved. It's like God, set you where you need to be. So there is something to be said about the community here in Marion.
Well, you said it. I mean, I think it's a beautiful testimony of the community that you're living in.
Yeah, and small town living.
Yes.
It's different because I know I live in Houston, and Houston is so big and spread out that when you first get here, it's hard to meet people unless you have people at work. It takes a while to find your niche of people unless you have people you work with, and even finding a church is not automatic because there's so many churches all over. And professional organizations or sororities and fraternities, that's another way that you meet people. But Houston, it takes a while, and I've heard that from just about everybody that came from somewhere else that moved here, that it took them a while. And when my first job, when I moved to Houston, I was the only Black person, and my coworkers were not friendly. Let me put it like that. So, it took me a good while, but then it all worked out. So, but it just takes a minute. And small town, in a small town, everybody knows your business, as they say.
That's why you got to be careful.
But I have the advantage because I'm not a Marionite, and it is not quite that small. Although you do run into people who know people, so you do have to always have your P's and Q's. But I think growing up, it used to be really funny. We would come and just be coming in town, and we'd stop at the Walmart and see one of my family members. Like that used to just crack me up. Like, how can we see a family member? We're just stopping at Walmart. It never happened at home in Dayton. So when I go home, it's hard for me now. I mean, Walmart is like 25 minutes, away at home, and Myers is like 30 minutes. Like, what is going on? And Marion, it takes me 6 minutes to get to Walmart and 8 minutes to get to Meyer. And don't talk to Miss Laura. If I tell her about going somewhere, she's like, that's on the other side of town. So it's like, it is a different type of living, but there's some advantages for sure.
Yeah, less stress. For sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it was a study that people who live in smaller communities live longer. I think there is some science behind that, and it has to be stress related. So what are your goals with the Peace and Freedom Committee going forward as a member, or I guess a part of the writing group? That's what people who've been on the show said. They're the writing groups. What do you hope to contribute and get out of it?
Oh, I mean, Miss Gwen, I've already gotten so much out of this. The Peace and Freedom Committee has been so supportive, not just with getting the books published, because as you know, there's a lot of steps to that, but just being in the writing groups where we could support each other, bounce ideas off of each other, just grow as authors. Like this is beyond what I ever thought I could do. And just the opportunities. I mean, they support us when we want to go to events, and then we have, we meet different connections, like we talked about at an event with Miss Stephanie's event is where we met Miss Valerie. So just all these connections that we're making. I didn't know they were going to announce the book at my job, but through that, I was able to do a book reading with a classroom. So, I mean, it's just pulled me out of my comfort zone to,
Mhm.
and one of my funny stories is, when I first heard someone ask me about being an author, I wasn't even talking. Thank goodness my mother was standing next to me and she was like answering the questions because it really hadn't sunk in, even though this has been a 4-year process. So it's just learning how to be out of my comfort zone, how to really step up to what I believe God is calling us to do. So I want to support the Peace and Freedom Committee because I believe in what they're doing. And Miss Lora didn't talk about all the events. It's not just the scholarship. They have a hats off luncheon, I believe Miss Kathleen talked about, where they honor women in business. They honor women who've overcome challenges. They have another Juneteenth event where it's based around health and minority health, which you know is a whole big deal in our community. So I mean, just Miss Laura's yes to do this. I want to support them any way that I can, but I have also grown in the process as an author, which is why I really wanted to do the second book. I believe the second book even fits with the Peace and Freedom in their mission, which is, I have it written down so I could read it. So the mission of the Peace and Freedom is an organization dedicated to promoting unity and education among youth and individuals of all cultures. And so I really want to help promote that in the Marion area, in Ohio. And like you said, Dr. Rhonda, with my new book, in the United States of America, I mean, we could do with a little bit more unity. We could do
Yes.
with a little bit more, like Dr. Martin Luther King said, in which Kiana will talk about in my second book, like his vision was that we would sit down, boys and girls of different colors, around this table, having conversations, appreciating differences, but finding a place sitting at that table where we can also appreciate how we're alike, which is how I grew up in this diverse culture, Black and white. I mean, I don't know how much farther you could get. My parents got married 3 years after it was the Supreme Court found it to be illegal in 1970. My parents got married 3 years after that. So, you know, I do think there is a move in this generation, not that we don't look at culture, appreciate culture, realize it, but also just be open to connecting in a place of unity as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this has ignited a huge purpose inside of you, I can already tell. Do you think that you eventually want to write a book separate from the program, or are you going to just stick within the writing group?
I really don't know. I don't know where God is going to lead me. I've always wanted to do some writing and research on grief because I don't believe we grieve in America, in a society in the United States the way. And when I say grief, I mean we have funerals, but we don't really grieve. I don't think we don't grieve miscarriages. We don't grieve divorce. And so I've always like since I was in my 20s and in school and going through graduate school, always have had an interest in that. I've had an interest in dealing with burnout,
Yeah.
especially with educators. So I don't know where if God's leading me to workshops or if that's going to be some kind of writing. I don't know where he's going to lead me, but there are some subjects I'd like to dive into.
Okay. Well, show your book cover one more time so people can see Missing Daddy, and you can order it online, I'm assuming. Oh, Amazon
Amazon,
or your website, your organization's website, which I think
Barnes and Nobles, Amazon.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and the link is in the chat for anybody who'd like to order the book now.
Mhm. Okay, well, thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest
you,
on Black
ladies. I
Authors
have
Matter TV.
so been looking forward to this opportunity. So thank you. And I hope and pray I can come to Houston and be a part of the festival one day.
Would
Well,
love that.
plan early for next year. You got a whole year to plan. It's October 23rd to the 25th next year. So just plan ahead and you can make it happen.
Okay.
We'd love to
I'd
see
love
the whole group. Maybe you all can get together and come as a group. That would be great.
I will definitely advocate for that, Miss Gwen. I will
Okay.
advocate for that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much for being a guest on the show and
Thank
continue
you, ladies.
success with
Thank
your
you.
writing
Thank
and
you.
the committee.
Thank you. Have a blessed evening.
You
You
too.
too. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, we are moving right along and have been learning a lot about the Peace and Freedom Committee in
Yeah.
Marion, Ohio, which I had never heard of Marion before they came on the show. Had you heard about Marion in terms of this the city of
No, I don't know much about it, but I'm almost not surprised because, like I said, I've been meeting so many people coming out of Ohio lately. It's like there's a big boom of just art, of business. I've been meeting a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of there, and authors and so forth. So I love to see it.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, our next guest is a novelist, and her name is Phyllis Dixon. And Phyllis has been on the show, but it's been a while. I want to say 3 years, maybe. I'm not sure exactly when she was on
Wow.
before, but it's been a while. And she's also been to the National Black Book Festival with her book, not this year, but in previous years. So, Phyllis, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And you have your Black Authors Matter t-shirt, which you got it a while back.
Yes. And whenever I wear it, people always want to know, where did you get that?
Yeah,
It's
well,
very popular.
yeah, it's eye-catching. So it's different, it's different with the letters like a book spine. And we designed it that way intentionally. So how have you been doing since we saw you last? It's been a while with your first book. Well, I don't know if you were on the show with your first book. You might have been on
I was on
second book.
last summer. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But didn't you have a book before that?
Well, I had two self-published books before.
Right. That's
several years before that. Right.
Right. That's
so then last year was Intermission, and then this summer, A Taste for More came out.
Right. So Intermission was your first book with the publishing house, one of the major publishing houses.
Correct.
And which publisher are you with?
Kensington.
Kensington. Okay. Okay. So you went from being an indie author, and then now you're with the publishing house from Kensington. And so how's that experience been? How's that journey been? Like when did you first do your first self-published book? And how did you go from that to your second book and then to the publishing house?
Well, the first two novels I independently published, and actually the first one came out in 2004. It's hard to imagine, to even believe it's been 20 years, but it has. Yeah. So, and actually it was not my intent to self-publish, but I submitted it several places and didn't get any, bites. So I just decided to do it myself. Seemed like other people were having success doing that.
And sometimes you have to prove yourself.
Exactly.
Proof of concept.
Exactly. And so then it was kind of a break in between there. And but the Intermission and A Taste for More, I had been working on all along. And so I was just kind of determined with these two that I wanted to get an agent and get it published. And I was just being stubborn and just saying, well, heck, I see other people are doing it. And, I don't feel like, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but it seems like my stuff is just as good as, or, on par with others. So, I'm going to stick with it. So I sent, queried several agents, and then found an agent, and then she was able to query, and we hooked up with Kensington. Okay. And so far it's been, I have enjoyed it. I heard a lot of horror stories about traditional publishing, but I think maybe because I had the background of owning a bookstore, because I previously owned a bookstore when I lived in Houston. So I had the background of owning a bookstore. I was Main Street Books down there by Sears.
Okay. I didn't realize. Okay, this is new information. I never.
Yep, that was me.
Okay.
So I know it's all changed now. There's a trolley or something there now, but that was me.
Tore down that Sears or something, or it's not. Well, the Sears still exists.
No,
I think they.
Sears is gone.
Some of the. Well, you can have you can be 100-year company, and then you can't make that next
That's
cut.
right. You got to be flexible.
You have to
You got to
be,
be
yeah, you
flexible.
have to change with the
Yeah.
times. And
So, but I think since I had the background of owning a bookstore and then also of self-publishing also, I kind of knew more of what to expect. So I wasn't expecting the publisher to send me on a 20-city tour.
Right.
I wasn't expecting, a six-figure advance and all that kind of stuff. So my experience with the traditional publishing, has been great. Kensington has been a good partner.
I think that's great that you went in with your eyes open because for so many brand new authors, their goal is to get with a big publishing house because they do think that they're going to get a huge advance. They do think they're going to be sent on a tour and they can stop promoting themselves because the publisher is just going to promote. And the publisher is just what it is, a publisher. They published your book.
Right.
But you still have to get out there and promote your book. You still have to make sure that it's well written. They're not going to do everything for you. They've invested some money into you, but you have to work to get that money back, or else all you're doing is just trying to pay your advance back if you do get one.
yeah, you have to earn that money back from the advance is an advance against future sales. So if they are no, I don't know if they make you give the advance back. I don't know. I know I've heard about people having to do that, but it was normally when it was larger amounts. But I don't know if they do that.
Well, no, even if if you get any advance, an advance is an advance. They're predicting your sales, and so if they give you a $2,000 advance, $3,000 advance, or $5,000, whatever it is, when you start getting royalty statements, you're going to get a statement, but you won't actually start getting royalties until you've paid that advance back, because it is what it is, an advance, not so much a payment. And I think a lot of people they get that wrong. So that's why I was telling Phyllis it's good that she went into this with her eyes open. She knew what to expect when she signed with Kensington.
Right. And actually my publicist with the company, they just think I'm just a little energizer buddy because I, setting up events here, setting up events there. And like I came to your event last year and all of that. And like I said, that's just what I expected to do. But they said, like you just said, so many authors, they don't really do anything.
Yeah. And we run into that at the festival a lot of times when people write a book, especially indie authors, and it's their first book, and they have an unrealistic idea of how this whole thing works. And they think because they wrote a book and it might not even be 100 pages and it might not, it has some elements that are missing in terms of just overall appearance, but they still expect that people would just buy it because they're breathing, that they're there. And that's just not the way it works.
Right. Right. And
So,
then, like you said, that was my experience even with the bookstore. Like I say, some individuals self-publish a book and then put an unrealistic price on it. It's like, well, this is what it costs me to do, or this is what I have to sell it for in order to make, X dollars. Well, it doesn't work like that. If everybody else's book is $17, you're not going to sell a book.
You can't go in there with a $25 book.
Right. You have to be with the market in terms of your type of book, page count, and what the market will bear, what the market standard price is. Like for a trade size book now, it used to be 15. It's gone up to 17 or 18 now. Right. Hardcovers used to be 25. Now they're 30 or more.
Right.
So it changes. But you can't take a 60-page book and charge $25 for it. It just doesn't. People won't invest in that.
But now tell us about your book. First of all, I think I've told you this before. I really think your book cover is really pretty. A Taste for More. Yeah, I love the colors on it. Can you tell us about the story?
Okay, A Taste for More. The short description is Mother's Daughter's Dessert Deceit. And so the question is, what would you do if your child had done, or you thought they had done something illegal? So in this story, Margot is the main character, and she's grown up in the rural Mississippi during the Jim Crow era. She's graduated from high school, first one in her family to do so. So she believes she's all of that in a bag of chips. It's 1960, and the thing she's not going to do is work in some white woman's kitchen like her mother and her grandmother. And so after trying to make a go of it in Mississippi, she decides to go to the promised land. But when she gets to the north, it's not all she thought it would be, and she ends up being a cook. But the story doesn't end there, so she does make a success of it. But along the way, when she left Mississippi, she left her daughter. So one of the things she's always been working toward is reuniting with her daughter. And so that is the basis for the story. And there's some bumps along the way, and there's some drama along the way. And one of the things, though, she wants her daughter to understand the sacrifices that she made and appreciate. And her daughter doesn't always necessarily appreciate it.
Those daughters, I tell you.
Yeah.
Gwen and I both have daughters, so we can say that.
And they're similar age. Mine's a little bit older, but they're similar age. And so, you know, I remember being my daughter's age, and I was in a whole different place. But I'm glad she didn't end up making some of the mistakes I made. That's, you just hope that your daughters don't make a life-altering mistake.
You hope your daughters are a lot smarter than you are.
Yeah.
I know that's my prayer for my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, if they do most mistakes, you can overcome. It's more of a life lesson. So
now, one cool thing about your book is you also have recipes, correct?
That's right. She ends up opening a restaurant, and it's called the 4th Street Cafe. So the recipes in the back are called the 4th Street Favorites. And so some of them are recipes that she brought with her from Mississippi, like 7-Up pound cake is one, fried pies is another one. Those are favorites at her store, at her restaurant. And then some of the recipes, because the place that she migrated to is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is where I'm from. And Wisconsin has a large German influence. And so there are some German recipes in there, as well as one that's called a bouillon stew, which is a German stew, red cabbage and sausage, sausage and bratwurst and all that stuff is big, German.
You're making me hungry, Phyllis.
And excuse me, I'm getting over it.
I've heard about that. I've never tasted. I don't know if I've ever tasted any German food. I mean, cabbage.
Well, I lived in Belgium for 5 years, so I ate the German food.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
I love German wine. I love German chocolate cake. I love German chocolate. Everybody talks about Belgian chocolate, but German chocolate is really good as well. And yeah, I ate the bratwurst. I ate the I forgot what it was called. You had the brats, and then you had kind of this fried pork. I can't even think of the name of it right now. Schnitzel.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, I ate all of that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Then there was some type of a steak dish with onion. It was not a dish. It was like basically street food, but the steak was so good. If you saw it, you just had to get it. So yeah, I'm into German food. So that's why I said you were making me hungry.
Okay.
Yeah. So now what do you have a Mississippi background?
No, actually, well, my parents are from Arkansas, and I did live in Arkansas a few years, but no.
Okay, well, I didn't know if you picked Mississippi as the setting for where the mother was from because you had a background.
No, I just thought one thing, it was easy for the train because she takes the train up there.
The migration.
So I know the train comes through Greenville and all of that.
Okay.
So I just picked Mississippi.
Okay. All right. So now
it makes sense though.
It does. Is this book related to intermission, or are they two separate stories?
No, totally different. Yes.
Okay. So you did them both through Kensington.
Right.
And is this the end of this particular arrangement? or did you have a third book that you're going to be doing?
Yes. Well, initially it was a 2-book deal with options. So they did extend it. So I have one coming out next year that actually takes place in Texas.
Okay.
And the title of that one is Something in the Water. And it's a lady that migrates there from California, and she has all kind of family drama issues going on as well. And the background, though, is a water crisis in her community.
Okay. All right. Now, do you have a particular interest in some of the subjects that you use for your story? Like, I believe Intermission, was it about football, or I know it was about
Singing group.
A singing group.
Singing group.
Oh, it was a singing group. I don't know why I thought it was sports related. That was the name of the singing group?
No.
Okay.
The singing group was the Diamonds.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But the story was about a singing group.
Right. And that one, they had been popular in the 90s. They broke up, and it's 20 years later, and they're considering getting back together.
Okay, you're going to show us the copy of.
But they had some drama to work out first. So that was the intermission.
It's another pretty cover. Do you get an artist to do your covers?
Kensington.
Oh, Kensington. Okay.
They kind of asked what my ideas were.
At least they asked. When I was with Kensington, they didn't ask me. They were like, "This the cover you chose?" Okay.
Well, that was not at all what I had suggested, because I was thinking of something with the stage and all of that. But I like that though.
Yeah, I like it's almost abstract, but it just feels like art. So I like it. So at least they did you well. It wasn't what you chose, but they did you well.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put all of that on a cover. You have 4 characters, and pretty much that's all that'll fit on the cover without making it too too busy. That's what I want. Because they can't do the stage and the people and all that. A lot of times covers are really, a person is normally a central thing, is one individual. It could even be a face, profile, or it could, but no, most of the covers have one person. If it's more than one, then that's all that's on there. That's not, because you can only do so much on a cover,
Right. And then one of the things that you have to consider, which I was not initially, is how it looks on a phone. So it has to, you have to look at it as the size of,
on a
stamp.
phone. Okay. Yeah.
But it still needs to pop out at you.
Right.
So it can't, like you just said, it can't be too busy. So for Taste for More, I didn't really have any idea other than I said it should be a lady with an apron or something to show that she's a waitress. So they incorporated that with her daughter.
Okay, now your recipes that are in there, are they your recipes, or where did those recipes come from?
Well, when people do research for books, some people get to travel and some people get to interview famous people, and I got to go to my kitchen because I am, people that know me, when they see that there's recipes in the book, they kind of give me the side eye because they know I'm not, I can keep you alive, but I'm not a, slap your mama type cook.
But I can keep you alive.
So I had to practice.
Honest about it, At least.
Yeah, my kids, they hamburger helper. Hey, we ate that every week. They survived. But so like the cake that's in there, well, actually both of them, I had not made a cake from scratch since high school. But like I said, I wanted to be authentic and make sure that I knew, like I said, I had friends give me recipes, some I looked up, but I still wanted to do them myself. So everything that's in there, I tried. And the only thing that I did that didn't work and I just gave up was the biscuits. Margot's biscuits are one of her favorites of her customers. And I tried, I messed up a lot of flour, and I just finally gave up. So it's a recipe for biscuits in there, but I could never, they're not mine. I couldn't get the biscuits to work.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to do biscuits. I've never made any that I can recall. And
Yeah,
if I did,
I've
it was
always
only
thought them to
once.
be hard, so I never tried.
But
Yeah,
people I know that make them, it's like, and like my grandmother, people, they just, it's real quick and easy.
yeah.
But
My grandmother and my aunt used to make them. My mother didn't make biscuits, but my grandmother and my aunt did, and they would. It was just like second nature. They were so
mhm,
used to doing it. They
right.
just, that was one of the things I used to like to cook, eat as a snack. My
Mm.
grandmother's biscuits, my aunt's biscuits she would have them in this cabinet because they lived out in the rural, and they had a refrigerator, but they called it a cavinator. That used to be a name brand a long
Oh,
time
okay.
ago for refrigerators, but she would keep it in a glass like cupboard,
Hmm.
and so um, but they were good, you know. So I wanted to ask you about when you owned the bookstore. That was the last thing I wanted to discuss with you. How long did you have the bookstore?
Let's see. Well, actually, I started doing book fairs and stuff like that. So we did that for like 2 years. So that probably was like 91. But then the books were just taking over the house. So then we finally got a site in 94. And I had that until 97
Okay, because I was
or
trying to see
98.
if the time you had your store overlapped with when we had ours, and it didn't because we opened our store in 2000.
Hmm.
But I
I
used
was
to
there when
go to
Nia
Main
was
Street.
there.
Who? Nia
Nia,
Books.
right,
On the south. I was in the south side.
right,
Okay, yeah, they used to be like 6 or 7. Of course, the Shrine of the Black Madonna
right.
was one.
And Sankofa. Wasn't there one called Sankofa?
I never knew about that one.
There's a Sankofa in Baltimore, I think.
Yeah, I think there was one called Sankofa too.
Okay. And then that one I didn't know about. But yeah, there used to be, and there is a resurgence of bookstores opening. They're having similar challenges to the ones that we had. Of course, when we opened our store, the internet was just, taking off. It was just getting really going. I think we opened our store maybe a year after Amazon, or maybe a year and a half after Amazon went online. So when you had your store, there was no internet shopping.
Right, I couldn't imagine doing it now. And at that time, that was like Terry McMillan had just come out, and publishers had just discovered that Black people do read.
TV.
So it was kind of, yeah. So it was
Yeah, we have
a
to thank Terry
renaissance. It was
McMillan.
a good time. But like you say, now with the internet and then with Kindle and all of that, I couldn't imagine trying to do it. Although some of the stores that I've been to or that I see that are successful, it's kind of like they've combined it with either a nonprofit or sort of like an event space
Yes.
and rent out for events and
Yeah.
make money that way too.
Yeah, we did a lot of that. We would have events at our store, but
Yeah,
it's
but just
still,
strictly books, I don't see how they do it.
yeah, you have to combine it with something else.
Hmm.
Well, you really have to be a destination spot for the A-list authors. And by
Yeah,
A, I mean a capital A. If you're one of the spots where they all come, then you can,
but even if you are, that's once or twice a month. That's not every day. And then if you think about it, books are like one of the only commodities where it doesn't matter if I'm in Los Angeles or Marion, as a young lady that you just had on, Marion, Ohio. Whatever this book says the price is, I can't raise the price. So even though my cost may be more, in Los Angeles as opposed to Marion or wherever you are, you can't make up that difference on your margin. So books are very difficult.
well, also now with all the discounting that what the people are used to,
Mhm.
they become accustomed to the book being discounted. Then a lot of people, they don't realize you can't get the volume if you're an independent store. You can't get the volume with the discount. You can't get the volume to survive. Like
Right.
like a Barnes and Noble. Even Barnes and Nobles is having problems. You know,
Hmm.
they have challenges. I think a lot of what they're doing a lot with homeschoolers. I've noticed Barnes and Nobles like
Oh, okay.
having
That's a good
education
idea.
materials, because if you homeschool, you need to get some workbooks and books for your children.
Mhm.
So they do a lot, because I was helping my stepson with homeschooling, and I would go, and they have a very good selection of items at all age levels, all grade levels, all subjects. So they have a huge section with that. So, but now who's your agent? Are you able to say? I'm wondering if somebody would know.
Sure. Her name is Marlene Stringer.
Okay, I don't know.
So it's Stringer Literary Agency.
I've heard of Stringer before.
Yeah, but that's not the Stringer. It was a black woman, last name Stringer, that was doing that.
No, that's probably why I'm thinking about the author Stringer.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
think of her first name right now. That's interesting, because she came to one of our early festivals. Vicky, is her name Vicky
Vicky
Stringer?
Stringer is who I was
Yeah.
thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where she is now. One thing about, when you're in the same field for a long time, some people, you see people come and go, and
Yeah.
some stick around. There's always new people coming online with things. So it is changing in that way. And also the industry itself changes. Like audiobooks are big now. And I saw that your latest book is on audio, I think. I saw that. Did I see that?
Yes, A Taste for More. That's my first book that is on audio.
Yeah.
So,
How was that experience for you? What did you listen? Did you like really listen to it yet?
I didn't listen to all of it. I listened to it, and I don't know, I probably shouldn't say it seemed kind of slow to me, but I did understand you can speed it up. Because I had never
Yeah.
done any audio. Yeah,
I
I
speed
don't
my
read
audiobooks
audiobooks.
up just a little bit. I don't want them to sound like chipmunks,
Mhm.
but you can speed it up to just a little bit to where it still sounds normal, but they're reading a little bit faster. So that might
But
be something you might want to think
yeah,
about.
this was my first time. And then I went to a conference this summer, and they had a panel of book readers, audio book narrators, and talked a little bit about that industry. And so I was very pleased that the publisher did put it on there, because that is an area that's growing, and so many people with intermission were asking me, if it's on, audio. So yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well,
Now, did you go?
congratulations on that, because I think a lot of people, I'm thinking about turning my own books into audiobooks. But I mean, it's a scary process because you want to make sure that the person who's reading your story is giving it justice. Like you were saying, you don't want it to be too slow or too fast. You want to make sure that they deliver the jokes correctly, if it's supposed to be a joke. So yeah, it's a lot that goes into it,
Mhm.
but congratulations on that.
And it's expensive if you're
Oh, it's
doing
very
it.
expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is expensive. It's much more expensive than publishing the book. Even if you add together the editing and the illustration, the audio costs more,
Yeah.
depending on who you use. But I'm just talking about the market rates. So now, are you a member of the Divine Nine? That's a sarcastic question.
No, I think she just likes Delta Sigma Theta behind it.
I asked that in just because I saw all your symbols behind you. So have you?
am.
Yeah, have you been able to? I know a couple of my really close friends are deltas, and I have friends in all the Divine Nines. So, have you been able to utilize your relationship in your sorority with your book sales? Have you tapped
Yes.
into that community?
The sorority has been very supportive. We have a institution called Delta Authors on Tour. And well, first of
That's been
all,
around
in
a
fact, we
long
have a
time.
directory. So Deltas can submit their book to be in this directory, and it's available to any Delta, just on all types of books. But then also the Delta Authors on Tour, there's an event in each region. and it rotates from different cities. And I've participated in that several times. I think I did one I did one in Jacksonville and Little Rock. Last year I was in Pittsburgh, which was my first time in Pittsburgh, and that was really nice. So the sorority is very helpful. And then also most chapters have an arts and letters committee, and they do different things, sponsor plays and things with young people, but sometimes they have book clubs too. So the sorority's been very supportive. And not just my sorority. I've done some things with Links. So it's we kind of support each other.
That's awesome.
Although they're not Divine Nine, but
Right. Mhm.
But they're a great organization, and
They
they're
are.
they're
Been around a
very
long time.
influential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not, I don't think they're as old as the sororities are, but they've been around a long time.
Yeah. And they do a lot for the cultural and arts as well.
Right. Well, Phyllis, congratulations on your book, and you have another one coming out next year. So when will it be out? Do you have a release month yet? Do you have a date?
I'm not sure on the date, just sometime in the summer.
In the summer. Okay. Okay. Well, it's so exciting to have seen you go from the indie author to pursuing something you really wanted, and that's to be signed with a larger company that can provide some of those benefits. And it's always good to see people realize their dreams and goals.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you all. Last year I was one of your finalists for your award. So thank you for this platform. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, you're welcome.
Well, thank you for continuing to support. We appreciate you.
Yeah, have a great evening, and we'll see you again sometime in the future, I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am. For sure.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, for those who are wondering about the National Black Book Festival, and I'm waiting on the photographer to give me the photo dump, because normally I get like 400 photos so I can start posting them. But in the meantime, we've been sharing in our story some of the videos that were taken at the event. So at least people are able to see some of those circulate. And but once I get the photos, I'm sure they'll be amazing, because they always are. And we'll be posting those for the next 3 months, more than likely, because there's so many of them that, and we want to tell the story slowly. So we try to post 2 or 3 pictures at a time. We don't do like 40 pictures. We don't do it like that. We give each, most of the authors who participated got their photos taken. And so we give them their moment in the sun, and just give people an opportunity to kind of get the feel for how the event was and how great it was, and the energy. And it's amazing. We were talking about it's coming, and coming, and then we had it, and now it's over. So it's like it all happened so fast. And then we have to start planning for next year, which we already have started. So anyway, we have our final guest tonight, and we did say that her last name was Hubbard too. So we don't know if she's related to the other Hubbard, but maybe they can connect together later on. But I've been connected to Sylvia Hubbard on Facebook for years and years, and never met in person. But she has a new book that came out recently, and so we invited her to come on the show to tell us about a new book. And she has several books. So, but her latest one, called Wicked Chances, just came out recently. So, Sylvia, and you share my daughter's first name, so we call her Syl for short. So if I call her Sylvia, she says that, that just makes her cringe, because she knows she's probably in trouble or something. I don't use her whole name. We just started calling her Syl when she was born, and we've been doing it ever since.
I never had a nickname.
You never had a nickname?
I've never had a nickname my whole life. People just call me Sylvia.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna call you Syl Lit, like on your Instagram.
Right. That's
Well,
so funny.
welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And yes, we've known each other for like, decades.
Yeah, a long time. So, and I think you've gotten married in the last few years. Did you get married?
Yeah, five. Was it 5 years ago? Yeah, I think it's 5 going on
Oh,
6 years now.
okay.
So
Wow.
yeah.
But you wrote under Sylvia Hubbard already, so a lot of
Yeah,
times people
because,
get married.
his name is so hard to say. He was like, it's okay.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Say it so many different ways. He just was like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay.
Well, that's good. So, tell us about your writing, how you got started with writing books.
According to my mother, she said I was 6 or 7, and I used to lie to her a lot. So she got tired of it, and what she would do is, after my butt whooping, I would have to write my lie down. So then after I wrote my lie down, I would tell her again what I wrote down, and I would get another butt whooping. So
Oh, that's
first one
hilarious.
was for the lie. The second one was for the depth of the lie. So I learned a lot about storytelling. I learned a lot about humans and how we relate to people, because it's not the lie that hurts us, it's how much attention
It's
and
the
time.
disrespect. Yeah.
Right, it's the disrespect and energy we put into that lie. So I stopped, lying, because I saw how painful it was.
And you said it's painful figuratively and literally.
Literally. And I just started
Mhm.
putting more lies on paper and just being more honest, in my speech. I lost a lot of friends over the years, but from my mother traumatizing me, my pain became my pleasure. And it's been, a roller coaster ever since. When I was 12, I knew I wanted to write romance, because I walked through, and I'm gonna tell my age probably, because I was walking through the library and I saw a Fabio cover,
Oh,
and
not Fabio.
I went from 12 to 40 in like a few minutes. I was like, what is in that book that holds that
Okay,
man?
now you're gonna have to explain, because we might have some young people watching. They
Okay,
don't know who that is.
yeah, Fabio was this gorgeous guy that looked like he was just the statue of David, just there and magnificent. And he would always be on romance books, and he would be not wearing anything, and the girl's dress will
And
be
his hair would be
partially
in
covering
the
the
wind, just
shoulders. Right,
flapping
his
in the
hair was always behind him back, and man, and it was just this book. I had to have it. And I went up to the library and I was like, I want to check out this book. And she did her job, and she refused to let me check out the book. So I did what any Detroiter would do. I stole it.
Okay.
They're gonna come looking for you.
No, the statute of limitations has already run over, and it's gonna be a short window.
No, the statute of limitations is still going. Haven't you heard about that? It was a girl who had a book for years. She became an adult and she finally took it back, and she had like thousands of dollars in late fees.
Oh yeah, because
Oh no, I'm not talking about the late fees. I'm talking about when you steal, there's no late fee.
Yeah,
right.
that's true. You
Well,
just going to
it's
jail.
theft. It's theft
large-
statute. But I think it's like 5 years. It's a 5-year window and after that they can't prosecute.
Thank you. So I did take it back years later. I replaced the book years later when I became an adult, but I got home and I read that book, and I just knew I wanted to write romances. I knew I wanted that happily ever after in my book. And yeah, well, life got in the way, and I have 3 kids that I know of between all that. And
That you know of. Girl, I need to interview you more often. You're hilarious.
but I was like, I wanted to raise my kids letting them know that you can pursue your dreams and still live your life, and and not let, life get in the way. I didn't want them to see what I had done before they had come. But like looking into my little girl's eyes, my oldest child, it was just like, I don't want to be a hypocrite and tell you to pursue your dreams, and I'm not doing that. So I kind of got on the ball after I had my first child and kind of said, hey, I want to be a writer. How do I become this? And then in 2000, it was kind of like it was kind of 1999 when the Y2K bug hit and everybody thought we was going to die. And I was like, well, before we die.
I remember that really good because, or really well is proper grammar, because my husband was in tech, and at the time he and Lawrence, Rhonda, you met Lawrence. He and they were in tech, and everybody was trying to safeguard their computers. See, the people who were born like after like maybe 1990, if they were born after that, they probably don't know about that Y2K.
They don't know about that.
But that was a hot mess, and they had everybody frantic about their computers, and everybody was waiting for New Year's Eve night when the year 2000 hit, and people, I guess they were expecting a comet or a meteor or something to happen.
Before the world ended, I was gonna write this book. I was gonna write a book. I was gonna publish a book. And I did my first book in 2000, and I haven't looked back 60 books later. So,
wow, I didn't know you had written that many books.
I didn't realize you'd written 60 books.
I had no idea you had written that many books.
Yeah, well, it's over 60 now. Probably by the end of the year, it'll be 65, 66.
That's wonderful. You're just a writing machine. How do you find your time to do your writing? I love asking this question of people who've written a million books. Well, do you write in the morning or do you write at night? Are you a full-time?
I'm not full-time. I got braces and glasses to still, afford for my kids for my last one who's in college. So I'm not full-time, but I just I stopped giving myself, I'm the queen of procrastination. I will put stuff off until the very end, and people are shocked by that. But I don't give myself permission to put it aside. If I have time, I'm going to do it. So whether I write the book or I audio the book, I'll talk the book out on my phone, or I'll handwrite the book, or wherever I am, I have something where I can continue writing that story. So, and my best time to write, of course, is at like in the middle of the night from like 1 to 4 a.m. But I usually like throughout the day, I tell myself if I can get 10 minutes at least 3 times a day, I can at least get about 500 to almost 2,000 words a day on paper, and then go from there.
I like that. And I often tell people that if you're waiting for the perfect time, if you're waiting for a good 2 or 3 hour block of time to write, you're never going to get it done. If you wait until you have time to write 10 pages, it's not going to get done. Now, I never thought about just writing in 10-minute spurts. I don't know. I'm almost guilty because I at least want to have about an hour, but you can get a lot of writing done in 10 minutes.
Saying 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is kind of like just a set time. So I can go over that 10 minutes, but I'll fool myself in saying, well, you could just sit down for 10 minutes. That's not going to be nothing. And then that 10 minutes will usually turn into 20 or 30, but I was able to get something done. But I have to trick myself as a grown woman to say, 10 minutes is nothing. I can do 10 minutes. And long as I have taken that thing, I can get a lot of stuff done. Because people say, well, how do you write? How do you manage being a single mom? How did you manage running a household? How did you work full time, run a writing organization? How did you do all that? And it was literally that 10-minute rule. And my kids always knew about it because they'd be like, okay, I'll say, clean your room. It's only going to take 10 minutes. And it wasn't going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to pick you up.
Yeah, you're right about that. You are right about that. But, I like that. Sometimes you do have to trick yourself. Because
Yeah,
if you're, like I said, if you're waiting for those perfect conditions, they're
it'll
not
never
going to
come.
happen.
It never come. And I just believe like you after 16, you get into the mindset of I'm grown. And you get so grown that you outgrown yourself. Like you'll tell yourself, I am gonna write that book, and then be like, "Ooh, Grey's Anatomy, let's go do that." Like, but I'm grown, I can do that, But then you end up not having a parent over you. Once you have no parent over you, you then start to think that I can do anything, but you get nothing done.
Right, right.
And that's what I had to do, is tell myself, I need to be a parent over myself, over that little child in me that has to get stuff done. So if I say I'm going to do 10 minutes before I watch Grey's Anatomy, I need to hurry up and get my 10 minutes in, and that's the
Yes.
reward to
Okay.
it. And that's how I have figured out how to do a lot of stuff in 24 hours.
I like it. And I'm still in that tonight because I got things to write and I've just been busy. I'm not
Right,
waiting for the perfect condition. I'm just trying to do a lot of stuff in a little bit of time.
right.
But I
You
think
don't
I'm
think
going to
about
adapt that 10-minute rule though.
Yeah, stop thinking about your days and hours.
Right.
24 is not a big number.
It's
You
not.
have to sleep. You know, have to work
Right.
and other things.
But
I like that idea too, because a lot of times if you say, well, I'm going to spend 2 hours, then you might end up spending half of that time sitting at the computer trying to
scroll.
force an idea.
Right.
Right.
In the 10 minutes, you probably had time, you were probably been thinking about it throughout the day or something. Then by the time you sit down and just make
You're
it
ready.
go,
Right.
you
It's right there.
yeah, it's right
Mm-hmm.
there. And you're not
Right.
sitting there like frozen, waiting on an idea to come. That's a hard thing when you write. That when you're at nothing's coming.
Well,
You're
I
sitting there.
often tell people that when you sit down and write and nothing's coming, sometimes that might be the times that I take to do some research.
Yeah.
If I'm right, even if it's a fiction story, you still need to do research.
Right.
Maybe you need to research the city where your characters live.
Or their
Maybe you need to
job
research exactly your character's job.
description,
Yeah.
what
If your character's a
where they live.
photographer, look,
Yeah.
if your character's a photographer, they're probably very choosy about the type of camera that they're using. So you
Right.
can't have them with a little point and shoot or trying to take phone photos when when they take it seriously, and they're probably using Canon or Nikon, no endorsement intended.
Right. Even if
Yeah.
you say you're a plant lover, like what type of plants do they have in their house? Because I take that seriously when
Yeah.
I'm reading a book and they say they're a cat, they got a cat, and then they fall in love. Who feeding that cat while you in Paris? You ain't telling me. I'm called Kemba on this
You just
author
left the cat to
because
fend on its own, huh?
alone. We don't hear nothing about the cat. No
we have
more.
a cat. So my daughter Sylvia has had a cat since she was 9. Then the one she had from 9 to the first one she had her for 15 years and she died. That was a very heartbreaking
Yeah.
day.
But you never hear about the cat no more. And you're like, well, what happened? You was a cat lover. And they don't even get into what the cat was. Whether it's a Maine Coon, was it a tabby or orange? I need to know these details.
Yeah, you're right. I don't, you know what? In neither of my novels do I have an animal. I just, you made me think about that. The only animals mentioned were dead ones. But it was in my first book. It was describing a scene where the person, in order to frighten or intimidate this woman, he left the carcass of a dead cat on her porch.
Oh, wow.
That's the only time I've ever mentioned an animal.
But I still want to know what type of cat was it. I'm just nosy like that.
If it's a carcass, it's a carcass, so it doesn't matter. But
I try to look out the window and see all the details. I ain't going out there, but I know what happened, girl.
Oh my
But
But
goodness.
yeah,
you have an active imagination, which is very important in writing fiction. And I
yeah,
guess it was revealed early on by your mother making you write those
she
stories about
nurtured it.
teaching.
And yeah, so I started just writing books, not as even as an escapism, but because I really enjoyed it. And I knew I needed a supplemental income because of my kids. Unfortunately, the government said you got to feed them. And so I had to find a way to, make sure I had a secondary income because I couldn't afford to take on another job of the job I
Mm,
was already doing.
okay.
So,
And
when I
that's
saw
something you
that,
can do at home.
yeah, and it was
Finding to
something
be
I could do at home.
available.
And at the time, they were in 2000, they were 5, 6, and 1. And I had got a divorce. I needed a supplemental income. And I was like, well, I just need $100 extra every month. And if I could just sell 10 to 20 books, I'm good. So that 10 to 20 books turned into 100, then 1,000, and then it just started exploding. The more books I wrote, the more books I sold, and the stories just kept coming. I say I'm bad on paper, so I can be good in life. I just got a lot of bad stuff to write about. I, so I just keep writing, and that's where this book, Wicked Chances, actually came from because I had suffered a fire in 2013, and that was the worst year of like my life, where we were homeless, we were squatting in a house.
Wow.
Um, that was when the government was shutting down, so I could hardly get aid. The city was going bankrupt, Detroit was going bankrupt, so I had got laid off. And after the fire, I knew I had 68 cents in my account. I was like broke. I was under the bucket broke. I wasn't even in the bucket. I was under the bucket broke.
Mm.
And I wanted to get a lot of that frustration about my situation and about the worry of being a good mom to my kids when I could barely afford a bag of rice. And that's where this book, Wicked Chances, came from, is the frustration of being a single mom. And what do you do in that situation? I mean, for me, I wasn't being chased by the police and by a, a, a loan shark to kill me, but but as still in the book, a lot of times the mother frustration came to the forefront, and how we struggle as single moms in our pursuit to do whatever we have to do in order for
Right.
our kids to be okay, and what sacrifices we're willing to make for them. So when I came up with this concept, and I wanted to try to do a forced marriage in the 21st century, because that's so hard to do. You can do it in historical times where the dad
Yeah.
just sends the daughter
Yeah.
away.
Mhm.
Well, I was like, well, what'll happen? How can you work a believable forced marriage? And she got with a friend who put property in her name to hide the property. Well, this real estate mogul wanted his hands on this property without anybody knowing, so he forced her to marry him, or he would turn her over to the police or the loan sharks and then give her kids over to them too. So she ended up being forced to marry him, and he had a lot of idiosyncrasies that were just horrible from his background. He was a horrible person, but he had a deep background. He was abused as a child. And so they had a lot of overcoming to do together. So this was like a really kind of nice tie-in for me to get that frustration off, but to also see the depth of what a lot of men don't talk about, and things that happen to them. So it was kind of like a coming together of two people who had a lot of stuff going on in their lives, and they found their yin to their yang. So that's what.
Okay, do you have a copy of your book?
Oh yeah, I have.
So you can show the cover. Put it closer to the camera so we can see it. Okay, all right.
Okay,
Now, is
Wicked
this
Chances.
interracial? Is this a
This is interracial.
interracial romance?
Blair just happens to be, she's a mixed Muslim Black person. So that's why she was turned away by her family. So it was so cool creating this cover with my cover designer. And just, I love the colors of this book so much because it's so, I was trying to I have a lot of red and black books. So I was trying to get away from red and black.
Okay, so you have blue as your color now.
Right.
Yeah.
So she has like the
But
blue.
it's a very eye-catching cover.
It is.
Yeah, I love it. I was like, when she
Mm.
showed it to me, I was like, oh my God. And I just love that intense look because that's exactly how he is. He's very intense, Sterling. Is very intense. And yeah, I just enjoy bringing this to life and bringing the struggles of what we go through as women, especially
Yes.
single moms. I don't think it's talked about a lot about those indecisive and are you doing the best thing for your child, you know, in terms of how you're raising them and how you're bringing them up in the world, and if they're going to be a good citizen, and you know, if they're going to make wise choices, or are you going to have to use your
Right,
house for,
right.
you know, for your bail for the,
Mm,
and that's pretty much, I think it got a lot of things that were internally happening to me at the time out on paper. And just as a note, my sister brought up a point even today. She said, because of the hard work, you know, you do as a single mother, your kids understand what hard work is, where a lot of people took a cop out and said, oh well, I'll just let life just happen, I'll stay on aid and I'll stay on this. And it was all the time I wanted Blair to make a better life for herself without falling on the system to make it so.
yes.
So the choices she made were sometimes foolish or sometimes just, okay, well, I'm just doing this just to see what's going to happen, because she didn't want to have to resort to that. So yeah, it's passionate
You
to
put
me.
a lot of thought into this storyline, and I can tell that you probably put a lot of thought into the characters as well. Did you
Yeah,
model them after your characters after anybody?
not really. Well, for Sterling, I knew a lot of guys who had not been abused as bad as him, but had
Hmm.
encountered situations that they didn't even realize were abusive situations, and it reflected on them as an adult. They didn't understand that pain does carry over until you decide to take control of it.
Right,
And
right.
I wanted to just hint about men's health and how we aren't addressing the issues that they have with uh pleasing their, even pleasing their, over pleasing their family or their parents in order to make a better life for themselves when they're not, you know, they're not. And now women have started seeing like, okay, I'm looking for my happiness, but it's a lot of men who just need to say, you need to start worrying about you and stop worrying about all
Yes.
these other people who are latching on like vampires, and make yourself happy. So I wanted to
That's a
bring that.
big one, and that's something hard for a lot of Black women to do because we're not raised that way to look out for ourselves.
Right. And that's what I wanted. A lot of the things and a lot of the messages in this book was to focus on yourself. What, because in order for you to be happy, in order for your kids to be happy, you have to be happy. And a lot of
Right.
women don't even understand that, because that's how they see the world, is that as long as my mama happy, I'm going to be happy. As long as my mama is doing what she loves, I'm going to be happy. That's my content, because they see you as the pillar of their lives.
Yes,
And a
yes.
lot of them don't understand that. They're like, oh, well, I'm making sacrifices for my kids, but you're miserable. So what sacrifices are you making? Because they see you miserable. They see you crying every day. They see you frustrated. They see you on the phone arguing with some guy. I was going to call him something else. But they see you arguing with this guy constantly. How does that help you help them be happy if they see you miserable? You're not teaching them anything. And that was a, you know, it was a real thought out subject for me as a writer as I was going through this book. And I guess, you know, even though I don't write nonfiction, and I can't, I still wanted to bring a message, that what I had learned in my life, to the page. I wouldn't say Blair is exactly like me, but yeah, it was a lot of the messages that trials and tribulations that I had gone through, and a lot of questions I asked that I got to like explore. These are the decisions I made, and I'm glad I made them.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate you sharing with us. Unfortunately, we've hit the top of the hour.
I know, I know.
Um,
Turned it out.
yeah, but I'm glad we got you to were able to get you to come on. We were able to work out the schedule, and just congratulations on all the books you've written.
Yes.
I didn't know. I've been connected with you a long time, but I didn't know the book count was where it was. So congratulations on that. And before we go, I do want to let everybody know we won't have a show next week. As you all know, next Tuesday is election day. Please exercise your right to vote.
Vote, y'all,
Because
vote. Don't stay
people
home.
died for your right to vote. And so we will be back the following Tuesday, which will be November 12th, with another amazing episode. We're going to say goodnight. And Sylvia, you're going to be here for the outro. We'll be back November 12th. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.